basically you grow around grief, right? And so originally you have this like huge wound that is like, it's so raw and it hurts so much. And then all of a sudden over time, it's still there. That wound is still there, but everything else grows around it.
Welcome to the Injured Athletes Club podcast, the show that helps athletes cope with sports injuries and bounce back stronger. I'm mental skills coach, Carrie Jackson. We're sorry you're here, but we're glad you're with us.
And I'm journalist Cindy Kuzma. This week, our guest is our second ever repeat guest, Dimity McDowell. She's the former leader of Another Mother Runner and is back to talk all about her new book, The 27th Mile. But before we get to that, we want to share another resource with you.
That's right. We are very excited to talk about this new book that you're about to hear about, but we also want to make sure you know about our book, Rebound, Train Your Mind to Bounce Back Stronger from Sports Injuries. It's an incredible resource. If you are an injured athlete or you're an athletic trainer or a physical therapist, someone that works with injured athletes, it's a wonderful resource for navigating the mental and emotional aspects of injury recovery. We are all about building resilience through that process and helping support you through the ups and downs and challenges that come with being an injured athlete. You can get it we've got ebook version, Kindle version. You could get it in paperback, and you can also get an audiobook of me reading to you. So you can hear my voice giving you advice on how to navigate this time. So you can check out all the places it's for sale if you go to our website, injuredathletesclub.com, or you can find it at your favorite place to buy your books.
We also want to give a big thank you to our exclusive sponsor for this season, Lever Movement. They're the creators of the Lever System, a portable lightweight device that attaches to a treadmill to reduce your body weight. You'll learn more about them later on in the episode, but just a heads up that you can use code INJURED20 for 20% off any device at levermovement.com. So with that, let's get on to this week's show. As I mentioned, our guest is Dimity McDowell, who is our second encore guest. We first talked with Dimity on episode 75 of the show, and we'll link back to that on the show notes. Now she's back to talk about her new book, The 27th Mile, How to Smooth the Rough Transition Out of Your Running Years. Dimity is also the co-founder of Another Mother Runner and the founder of Many Happy Miles, a community and coaching service offering strength, fitness, and adventure to midlife women. Sounds like a pretty good group, I think. And of course, she's an athlete and an adventurer herself. Carrie, what did you think of this interview?
It was so fun to have Dimity back on the podcast, and especially to promote this new book. We kind of made jokes about like, this should be a package deal where you get a rebound and a 27th mile. So, so I think one of the things I was the most excited about with having Dimity back on is just to let all of you know that are listening about her story and about this book. Cause I know that some of you that tune into the podcast are in different places in your injury recovery, and some of you might not be returning back to your sport, and that sometimes it's hard to listen to stories of people who are coming back. And so I think this is a really important book and a really important episode, that idea of what does it look like when you are transitioning out of your sport for whatever reason, right? Whether it's injury or other things in life are calling to you. So that transition, it's a big one, and it's very, it can be very beautiful. It can also be very painful and complicated. And I think Dimity's story, and, she does a great job of really honoring that transition, both in this interview and in the podcast. And I just, a lot of what she was talking about, I identify with in terms of the work I do with my athletes. So I really appreciated the ways that she is supporting people through this transition. And I especially liked, it's easy to think about movement as all or nothing, especially when you're involved in a sport that you love. It feels like it can't possibly look any other way. And how do you work your way to a place where maybe it can look another way? So that was a big part of the conversation I really appreciated.
Yeah. And what's great about the book too is that it is sort of inspirational. It's emotional support, but it's also informational support. She does a really wonderful job of making it a practical guide of breaking down, okay, hey, running gave you a lot of things, and you're going to have to consciously think through what all those things were and how to replace those. And we talk about that in this episode too, although she certainly goes more into depth. And as she says, she has like an actual guide exercise to kind of walk you through this process. But I think what also struck me in this interview and in all of these stories is that there are some things you don't have to replace from running or whatever sport is your first love, because there are parts of it now that are part of you that will always be a part of you. And I think that that is important to realize too. So I hope that this interview and this book will help everyone who's kind of in that phase of thinking about quitting, of being in that transition. And just, I don't know, there's so much here that will be helpful for anyone in any phase of winding down a sporting career, I think. So anyway, we'll get to it now. Here's our interview with Dimity. Dimity, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us again on the Injured Athletes Club.
It's not a place that you want to frequent, but it's because you get to hang with you guys. I'm happy to be here, right? Cindy and Carrie, I'll do that. It's not, no.
That's right.
I'm glad to be back. Thank you.
Yes. No, we get that. And yeah, our saying. We're sorry you're here, but we're glad you're with us. And we love the way you started your new book. As an author, I shouldn't say this, but I'm sorry you picked up this book. I love it. Inspired. So congratulations on this important publication. It's going to help so many people. And we know you're kind of in the middle of celebrating the launch right now. Let us know, Dimity, how are you doing today?
Today, on this very day right now?
On this very day. Right now.
On this very day right now.
Yes.
Okay. Is this honest, or is this like...
This is honest.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Honest.
So I had a party. So it literally came out a week ago Tuesday. So the first thing that we did, the first event that I've had last night was with a neighborhood party with a bunch of my friends and a bunch of my older, we call them best running friends. And so it was probably 20 or 25 women at one of our girlfriends' houses, and it was really fun. And I'm a little tired, to be honest. And that was hard because I have not kind of found my rhythm yet with this book. I haven't read it out loud much.
Okay.
And so that was kind of my beta group. And I'm like, oh, this is too long. But now, you're kind of in the middle of a passage and you're like, well, I can't stop right here. So it was, fortunately, it was a very soft place to land. So that was good.
Nice. Right. That's good to you don't want to be in the middle of a passage and be like, et cetera, et cetera. And
yada,
go on and on.
Yeah. Well, and the part that I read, the first part, I was trying to kind of, at the beginning in the introduction of the 27th mile, I kind of catalog my injuries and kind of what I did to try to fix them over many years. And, that's just, it's interesting somewhat, but not really, other than the sheer length of it all. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And so that's what I was reading. And I was like, oh, I just want to stop reading this right now and just say it was really long and complicated.
Yeah.
Well, it is super interesting how the different kinds of things translate in the different formats. Right. So it always takes some figuring out when you're moving from the page to the spoken word.
Yes.
Well, like we said, you actually are our second repeat guest. So there have been others Amelia Boone came back too. So,
very nice.
But when we last talked with you in 2022, you were about 2 years out from your last run. And we definitely will link your previous episode 75, in the show notes and encourage people to go back and listen to hear more of that list of injuries and what kind of brought you to that point and what that initial transition was like for you. And when we talked then, you were channeling your, desires for fitness and mental stability and adventure into a few different avenues like swimming, biking, hiking. And so we're just curious, how that's evolved for you since then and what your routine kind of looks like now with fitness.
Yeah, it's very similar still. Swimming and biking are kind of my two easy endorphin fixes, right? So when I need to get my endurance, fix, that's where I go. I've been swimming more these days. I've kind of made a lot more peace with the routine it takes to get into the pool, driving there, changing, showering, swimming, showering, changing, it's like 2-hour dance of that. So I've been swimming more, hiking some, not hiking as much right now. And then, and cycling some. I think I've talked about getting a gravel bike for a very long time. I think that this is going to be my summer to finally do it, take the bullet. And I've been strength training more. I'm 53. I am firmly on the other side of menopause, and I really am feeling the need to make sure that my body feels really strong and stable for the rest of my life. And so strength training 3 times a week. And I've also started, one thing that I have done, I think, since 2022 is I started teaching. So I teach spinning twice a week.
Oh, cool.
And I teach we call it total body conditioning, but it's really just strength and mobility. Once a week, just at the Y, and it's just lovely. I love it so much. It's given me community. It's given me a chance to kind of have purpose with my workouts and design fun workouts. And that's been a side of things that I wasn't expecting to feel so fulfilling.
Oh, love that. Love that. Have you been tempted to or actually tried running again?
No. I mean, have I thought about it? Yes. Have I actually picked up my feet to run? No. I just know right now that it's just not a good choice for my body, especially with the menopause. I don't know if you guys talk about that much on this podcast, but my joints are not the happiest they've ever been in my life, I would say.
Unpleasant.
It's really unpleasant. So even if I were running right now, I think I would probably be scaling back a little bit anyway, just my knees in particular. So I have not really been tempted to run very much, no.
Okay. I think it's interesting to hear. And, I think it will be interesting for people listening. Of course, they should read the book too, but to hear how your thoughts and feelings have kind of evolved in the time since, we talked last, or in the time since you stopped running. So yeah, I'm curious how your thoughts about your relationship to running has shifted in the past couple of years. And I'm sure that's also been affected by your work on the book too, right?
Yeah. I mean, I do think that time was probably the best solve, right? It's just the best. Yes, there's a lot of things you can do, and you can make your plan to try different things, and you can do the emotional work of going through the grief. I mean, that's super important. And it gets you to the other side. And then it's just you kind of walk away from it a little bit more. I give a couple models of grief in this book, and there's one in, holy cow, let me just see if I can find the name of it, because I can't think of it really quickly. I don't know the name of it. But anyway, what it is you grow around grief, right? And so originally you have this huge wound that is it's so raw and it hurts so much. And then all of a sudden, over time, it's still there. That wound is still there, but everything else grows around it. It's kind of like an egg a little bit, but the egg would have to keep getting bigger. The egg white would have to keep getting bigger around that yolk, if that makes sense, Or if a tree keeps growing, but it still has that little knot in it. And that's kind of where I feel that represents where I am. It's always going to hurt a little bit, but it doesn't feel like it's such a big part of me anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in the book, actually, I just checked, and you just call it the growing around grief model. And I think that's really beautiful. And I've thought about that in terms of losing people too. And it's always been a very helpful mindset for me.
Yeah. I mean, you're never going to not be sad when you think about it, but also life goes on, and you do find new ways to challenge yourself and feel strong and feel powerful and all those things.
Yeah. So when we talked last time, you had just published a fantastic series of articles about this in Women's Running magazine. When did you realize that this could and should be a whole book?
When I saw the comments on social media, to be honest with you, it really, really resonated. That feature that I got to write for Women's Running, which was one of the final one of the final features in the magazine that wasn't on a coffee. You could put it on your coffee table.
Right. Yes.
Sorry. You know what I'm saying? It was a real magazine. It wasn't just read online.
Yeah.
But the online comments were just heartbreaking and also validating. And that's really what I was okay, there is something here, because nobody likes to talk about loss. Nobody likes to think about the end and what the future is going to look like. I talk about it it's you don't want to think about a friend dying or going through a divorce or anything that, and so you kind of don't want to even put that energy in the world. And same thing with running. You don't want to think about what it looks like. But the reality is most of us are going to have to think about that. Not everyone can stand on the podium at age 70. And so when I saw those comments, I was okay, I'm ready. I really enjoy helping people that I feel are kind of in the wake the great people, the people that are doing really good things, like I've said this a couple times, but like, it's really easy to celebrate somebody who's running their first marathon at age 65, or it's really easy to celebrate a PR at an unexpected age, or even just finishing a really hard race or a race period. And in that, you see that, and I just see this triangle back from that post or that person. And there's all these people that are standing in there wanting to be in that position and doing everything they can to be in that position. But the reality is they just can't be. Their body won't let them. Mm-hmm. And I like talking to those people because, it's real life, and it's not everyone can always win,
That's right.
I don't know. That's
Yeah. Yeah. And helping people, I think, understand how do you define success for yourself? Yes. When that is your truth, right? Like, because that is only one way that we choose to define success. It's really challenging in the sports world, right? In the cultural, and this is in the broader culture as well, like that our thoughts and feelings around success, it usually has something to do with like, oh, well, it has to be for a specific outcome or a specific goal accomplished or a first or a PR, that kind of thing. And so one of the things I work on with my clients and like when I speak is talking about how do you celebrate like the moments that come much earlier of like you push yourself out of your comfort zone. You have no idea if it's going to pay off or not, but like let's have a toast to that moment, that act of courage, and like just helping people have different ways of recognizing those wins, right? So when you think about like maybe through this process of writing the book and just your own journey, like for you personally, how are you defining success right now for yourself in your athletic life?
Success for me in my athletic life right now is staying healthy, and is being able to be able to do what I want to do. I mean, minus running, but again, that wound is kind of healed pretty much. So if I want to go do an epic hike, I know that I want to be in a position so that I can train for that, right? Yeah. Or go do a bike ride, a longer bike ride or gravel ride, or I'm going to hopefully do a couple long distance swims this summer. So like that, I want to keep challenging myself, but I also, this whole process along with age has kind of toned me down a little bit. I used to be pretty aggressive about not necessarily my goals. I've never really been times, like I've never been like a super time driven person. Like qualifying for Boston was never on my bingo card. Like that's not interesting to me. I honestly didn't want to push myself that hard. But even now with time, I'm like, okay, I want to go do these swims, but I just want to train so that I can get through them and enjoy them. Right. I'm not like, again, like what does a PR look like in a 2-mile swim? I don't know, but still it does, like, I'm just like, I just want to be at a place where I feel really capable enough to like get in, enjoy myself and keep going, Yeah.
And I do think, obviously, like the people that we're talking to here today, like there's something so valuable about that. Once you've been through the injury cycle so many times, too, I think you feel that urge and that desire more deeply than if you haven't been in that position, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, one thing I love that you did in this book at the end of the second chapter was to offer people permission to quit running if they were on the fence about it. And I want to see if you would talk a little bit about why you decided to do that, why that's important.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. I think it's really important because most of us don't get it, right? I got the a gentle suggestion from my orthopedist that I should consider not running anymore. That's literally how he said it. Consider not running anymore. So it was kind of this like, soft blanket of like, okay, this isn't very good for your body, right? There are very few people. So I interviewed over 50 women in this book. And talk to a bunch of other experts and stuff. And there are very few people that get like, you may not run anymore. Like literally, you may not take another step. There's a couple people that had that edict, issued by a doctor. But for the most part, it's a decision you have to make by yourself. Certainly the doctor or a PT or whatever can weigh in and say this might happen if you keep doing it. But we know runners, like they are very stubborn. You're going to hear it and then you're going to say, okay, I'm going to go to another doctor and get a different opinion, So just having somebody say like, you know what, you tried so hard. I get you. I see you. you are not failing because there's, running, it's so simple. And so it's so easy to see what failure looks like because it's like, okay, I just stopped, right? It's not like my team abandoned me or broke up or, I'm not able to get to a pickleball court or whatever like that. It's like, I literally am deciding not to go out and put one foot in front of the other. And so it's this magnet that draws you out there. It's so simple and it's so pure. And so you have to have a lot of willpower to say, I'm done,
Yeah.
And so just having just again, and then a little bit of just empathy and validation. That's really what I wanted was a lot with this book was validation. Like what you're feeling is real and it's okay to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's an act of courage, I think, in and of itself. And I think the challenge sometimes with athletes is, because you're so you're immersed in that athlete mindset that it feels like there's a couple of different things I see going on. Sometimes it feels like, well, if I still can, that means I should.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And then if I stop, it means I'm a quitter, right? It means I am quitting when that's not what's happening. It's an evolution of your identity, but that transition is very challenging for athletes and not just professional and elite athletes. Like this is very challenging for my master's athletes too, or people who just like part of how you show up in the world is in your body. And that's meaningful to you. Like no matter what level and no matter what sport, it's that transition can be very confusing and very hard. And there's a lot of back and forth with it also. So I love, I'm wondering if like some people see the title of your book or they assume like, oh, I only read this when I know I'm done. But I feel like it's a very powerful book for that transition period of like, you're starting to contemplate at some point, this might change for me. Like when you think about the audience for your book, do you feel like there's a perfect time to read it? Or do you feel like it kind of can be a broad stroke over all those time frames?
I mean, I think it can be a broad stroke. And I think the more proactive you are about it, the more, it's going to be hard no matter what. Like there's no like nice smooth pavement from not running or running to not running. But if you are proactive about it and think about how it's going to make you feel, think about what else you want to do to fill up those buckets that running gave you, that is going to put you in a much better position than when you're on your heels feeling like, oh my gosh, I literally can't go anymore. And now what? Right. And so I have heard from people who, are still running, but have read it and they have enjoyed it as much as you enjoy a book about losing something, or they found it helpful, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
And then of course there are people who are like on the other side of running, like myself, I'm 5 years out and I still think that they would benefit too, because there are a lot of lingering feelings at times. One of the things that I talk about a lot is that like, it is real grief, right? Yeah. And trying to minimize that. And I didn't really know that. You kind of put it off to the side because it's not, I'm not making money from this. I never stood at a podium, right. So it's not necessarily, it doesn't feel as urgent as my other identities. But in fact, it's probably the identity that I was most proud of.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it is easy to think that like, well, who am I to have this grief for this thing when it's not my it's not my career, it's not my profession. I wasn't on a podium, but it's it's like it has that same emotional impact, and understanding it as grief is I think is an important piece. And in that, recognizing, to your point, what you were saying about whether you talk about it and think about it and read about it now versus a year from now, 2 years, 5 years, there's not going to be a magical point where it's going to be easier. It's always going to be challenging to face that no matter when you do it. And just knowing that it's okay that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you kind of start the book with the big question too. And I think this is a healthy one for athletes to ask at any point along the way, which is just like, why does running matter so much? And you spend a lot of pages on that. And I know you've thought about that over your career and over this process, but briefly, like, what did you come up with, both yourself and from talking to all of these other women who had gone through this or were going through this transition?
Yeah, it's easy to point out, the very tangible things. Community is a huge one. You have your running friends, and those friendships feel very intimate and very deep pretty quickly. Mental health, physical health, time outside, pride in your activity, structure, all that kind of stuff. Like that all gives you, that kind of makes up the life of a runner. But then I was like, still, I could get up at 5:30 a.m. and knit, right? Like, why does it have to be running,
Right.
And to be clear, I'm not a knitter. Anyway, I would never get up at 5:30 and knit. But I was just looking at different ways to explain it. So like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like the basic needs. Okay, it's not your basic needs, but then you go up the ladder and it fills things pretty dang quickly. Your need for hold on, I've got to pull out my book.
Like belonging and
safety and love and belonging, and esteem, self-esteem, and self-actualization. I mean, when I think of self-actualization, I see myself out running, the best I can, or at mile like 12 of a half marathon. Just like really like, this is who I am. This is as strong and as pure and as disciplined as I am. So there's that. It helps with existential thoughts as well. I mean, like you're out there, you're by yourself, you have time to contemplate the meaning of life, the meaning of death, all those things that, when you're in a flow state, and that's the third one, where your head is just like, wow, I can't believe I'm thinking all these things as I'm out, running and doing this thing. And it just brings this like more of like a 30,000 foot view of running. In addition to all the things that those community, all those things, which are as important. We just probably don't think about those other high level things as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, I think when you do put it that way, and this is definitely the effect it has in the book, is like, oh yeah, well, that's no wonder I'm upset. Like it checks so many boxes and just does so much even more, like you say, than you're thinking on the average day or week, that it's definitely real grief when it slips away.
Yeah.
Can you run more mileage without getting hurt? Return to running sooner after an injury.
Keep your fitness even when you're facing a setback? Or get to the start line healthy and faster? If you ask our friends at Lever Movement, you just might find the answer to all of these questions is a resounding yes. We are thrilled to welcome Lever Movement back as our sponsor for season 9 of the Injured Athletes Club podcast. And if all that sounds good, they have an offer that makes it easier than ever for you to try the Lever system for yourself. In case you haven't heard about it yet, the Lever system is a portable, lightweight device that attaches to a treadmill to reduce your body weight. This is very good news for all of us athletes because it means less impact on the joints, so we can come back from injury safely or even prevent getting hurt in the first place. And the best part is that it's portable. That means you can use it at home or even take it to the gym and set it up in less than 2 minutes.
Elite athletes like marathoner Sarah Hall and Jess Lehrmanth, an Olympic gold medalist in triathlon, have used Lever in their training and rehab routines. And we know, so have many of you in the Injured Athletes Club. If you'd like to check out the Lever system for yourself, use the discount code INJURED20 to get 20% off any device. And stay tuned here on the podcast and in the Facebook group for the Injured Athletes Club this season. We'll have more exciting updates from our partnership. We have some fun plans in the works with Lever we know you're going to want to check out. Well, you have another chapter that I loved called the Calling It Quits Marathon, which sounds, it made me feel like similar to the emotional roller coaster of injury. But tell our listeners a little bit more about the CIQ marathon and how you think that framework can kind of be helpful in the transition.
Yeah, to be clear, it's not the CIM marathon. I was
right.
California International
Different marathon. Yeah.
Very different. But the CIQ, okay, yeah. So I made that up because really I wanted to try to capture what that, once you've kind of made the decision or, it's been made for you, whatever, you're on your way out, that you've at least recognized that to some degree. You want it to be, again, like some smooth pavement and go from point A to point B. And the reality is it's like one of those, drawings where the string is all tied up in different knots and going in different directions. And so that's the kind of why I came up with the CIQ, because it goes through, different feelings. You're going to feel like anger and you're like not going to want to try anything else. And you're going to try run walking 14 times before you finally decide I'm not going to run anymore. And you're going to blow up on social media, and you're going to, just do all these different, not yourself blow up, but it's going to anger you. Yeah. And just different things, be jealous, be angry, be sad, be curious about what the next thing is, have a little bit of acceptance towards the situation. And it is not a straight marathon. Like, it's not from mile 1 to mile 27, because you might think, today is awesome. And then you get in the car after your strength class, and the song that your power song comes on, and you're just like in tears again. You're like, what the heck? Like, I'm feeling okay, but it's bringing back all these memories. And I just wanted to, again, validate those things and realize that the road is very rocky. And you will get there, though. I mean, you will get there. But it's harder than a marathon. I'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah, what you were just describing sounds like I've heard described in terms of grief, like a grief ambush almost, like where you're mostly feeling okay, but then you get that trigger or something reminds you, and it all comes flooding back.
Like a wave, right? Yes, crashing on you. And it doesn't care about your agenda. It's just going to show up whenever it feels like. Yes, yeah.
1,000%. That's a really good phrase. I like that, grief ambush. I might have to steal that one.
Go for it. I didn't make that up, so you can have it. But yeah. One of the miles in the CIQ marathon that was really interesting to me was the mile 24, the keeping the running door slightly ajar. And, I asked you earlier, like, if you had considered or been tempted to run again. And I think this was really interesting in reading through the different stories that you have in there. It seems like some people do better if they like officially retire or close the door completely, even if they still have the option, whereas other people don't feel that need to draw that firm line in the sand. So I'm curious, do you think that one seems more helpful than the other? Or does it really just depend on your situation and your personality and what feels right to you?
Yeah, I think it's an individual thing, right? I think with running, there's often a lot of unfinished business. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, but I wanted to run a 5K with my adult children or my grandchildren. Or I wanted to really do this marathon with a friend or a half marathon, and I wasn't able to. So there's always this like little like, oh, but I'll be done when I get to do that. Right. And so if you need to hold that open for yourself, in a way that has compassion and perspective and, realizing that, you may get there and you may not. I think that's okay. Again, it's kind of your own realistic thing. And it's not like I slammed the door and running and said I was out. I just was like I just was like a slow burn, and finally the match went out, and I had enough, right? I was sick of the struggle of trying to keep running as much, like that. Finally, I was like able to admit to myself, like, I am giving so much energy towards trying to do this that I'm running myself into the ground, even without the miles. And so, for me to think about, I want to keep my door ajar just so I could maybe run a 5K, like, I just feel like that, it's just a jar full of, worms or something like that. It's like, I'm going to come back and bite me. Like, I don't, one of those pop out things. Like, I'm like, no, I don't. I put the top on. It's nice and solid. It's nice and tight. It's going to stay that way.
It's cozy in there. Life. Let's keep it inside. Yeah. I like that. I think it's important to think about that. And you're right. Like, it's so very individual, right? Whether needing to have that sort of finality to it, and that like sort of drawing the line in the sand for some people is more helpful than keeping the door ajar. And I think one thing for people to understand too is like that idea of keeping the door ajar. It's not about denial. It's more like I like to use relationship analogies with our sport, right? Because you're in a relationship with your sport. So it's kind of like you broke up with running and you're like, but hey, maybe we could still be friends and I'll check in on you every once in a while. And for some people say that and they know it's never going to happen, but it feels okay. Like it feels good to think that is a possibility, or and then for other relationships, it's like, I don't ever want to see your face again. And we're doing a fine, like don't look at me. So it really does depend on the person. And I love that you put that in there, that it's, that it's okay to have the door ajar if that's something that feels good for you, like in either way. Yeah. Yeah.
And I think also, again, with time, like, I think the person I quoted, you're like still maybe feeling the pain that you had, and she's Googling like, what the situation is and can I keep running? And, that might happen at 6 months and 8 months and 10 months. And then maybe at 16 months, you're like, okay, I don't need to spend that time, digging through the internet, trying to find that one solution that probably doesn't exist,
Right. Yeah. And then it's possible to get to a point where you can't, like, those feelings will come. You get hit with the grief wave, and that you can be sad and then also feel grateful and nostalgic for that it was a part of your life, and sad at the same time that it's not a part of your life anymore, that all of that can be true. And you all have the capacity to hold all of that.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. Well, we here at the Injured Athletes Club love a good writing exercise, and you have a couple great ones in there. One of them is about writing your running obituary. I love that. How did you come up with that, and how did it help you to do that exercise?
I just came up with it one day. It was a blog post originally on Another Mother Runner, and I just wanted to have some finality. I wanted to celebrate the runner that I was, and I didn't want to wait until I died, right? It's almost like, you almost want to write your own obituary so that, you're like, oh yeah, look at all the things that I did so you can appreciate that. And I don't know, it just came to me. And I really enjoyed the process. I mean, it's fun because you can put your own spin on it. You can, put your race highlights. You can put what you loved. You can put what you hated. You can put your friends in there, whatever, your favorite trails. And that was one exercise that had me teary, right? Like when I'm typing and crying at the same time. But, when I put it up on Another Mother Runner, a couple women in our community just followed suit and wrote it and wrote their own. And I think it's really helpful too when you are kind of on the teetering fence and you know which way your gut is sending you, but you're scared to, again, close that door. So it's almost like an exercise of like, oh my gosh, I loved you. You gave me so much. Look at all the things we did together. And now I get to send you off and hold on to you at the same time, but I'm not going to cling in an unhealthy way. And it is healing, I think, in that way.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of hints at something else that struck me, and it struck me when we talked to you before as well. But when reading the book, it definitely hit home that the benefits running brings you, like, as we were talking in the beginning, some of those you aren't going to get anymore if you're not doing it on a regular basis. But there are so many things that you can gain from it, or that you did gain from it, or that we have gained from it, that don't disappear when you move on from the sport. And so how did you kind of see that playing out across the women that you talked to? What did they carry with them into the next phase? And what, for you, for your running journey, what continues to benefit you?
Yeah. So I think it's really important to that's another exercise you can do, is just kind of distill, like, yes, running gave you medals and friends and, a lot of cute t-shirts, hopefully. But what else did it bring you? Like, what were the features that it really, why were you still getting up? And especially as somebody who's not, benefiting from it in a monetary way, or, even in winning a free pair of shoes at a 5K. And so, what is that? Is that community? Is that time outside? Is that time to challenge yourself? Is it a way to measure yourself? Is it a way to build power inside? All these different things. And I have, I can share with you if you'd like. I made a little accessory program to the 27th mile. It's called the Running Detox Program. And it has this exercise in it where you go through and circle what was good. It's also in the book as well. Yeah. So you take those things, right? And so, for me, I loved structure. I love a big adventure. I love time outside. I definitely need endorphins for my mental health. And I'm like, okay, again, like running, put them all in a really neat package. Mm-hmm. Chances are you're not going to be able to just find a package of exactly that size in something else. Mm-hmm. But now I know, okay, I need these 4 things. Where am I going to get them? And how can I, there's a lot of overlap, like, cycling is time outside and endorphins and mental health, right? And maybe community if I take time to find that. And, maybe I'm finding more community though, playing mahjong, or something like that, so you just have to, again, like you can't expect to replace running 100%, but you can replace the facets of running 100%. Another way that I think about this is, running's our A, right? Running is our A thing. Like, it is so good. It is so pure. It makes you feel so alive. Like if you can find things that are like a B minus, which sounds depressing, but it's really not, because that's still a pretty good grade and you're lowering the bar for your expectations. You know, you're not being like, oh, I'm going to go play pickleball. I've never played before. And gosh, why don't I feel like I did after a run? Well, because it wasn't running, you know, but did you have a good time? Did you come without the other piece of advice that I thought was really helpful was like, don't lead with your running mindset. Like, don't go into a new thing thinking like, you know, especially if you've been running for decades, you're pretty good at it. You know, all the language, you know how all that works. And you're going to come in and feel a little bit like, you know, a baby foal, like, how does this work? And I don't know how my body moves this way or whatever. Just like have a sense of humor and take the runner out of it.
Yeah, I think that's so important to recognize that, like, you want to be married to the values, but not necessarily to the strategy, right? So running is the strategy, but there are things that it hits that once you identify what those are, go, okay, is it possible for me to get those top tier sort of values somewhere else and be open to the B minus, knowing that, sometimes I've had some athletes like turn their B minus into an A, right? So sometimes I'll say like sometimes plan B should have been plan A all along. Like, and we just don't know it until we give ourselves permission to do a B minus and stop. I think a big part of that process is just like when we fight against, like when we don't feel our feelings and fight against accepting that this is where I am now. And then be able to even contemplate looking at something that might be a B minus. But I think that's a really important part of that process of sort of examining all of that. Because sometimes too, it's just, we don't take the time to examine it. And so it's habitual, all of that. Like, well, running is what I do because it's what I've always done and I don't want to do anything else. And it's because we haven't thought about doing anything else. Yeah.
No, it's addictive, right? I mean, I think that it's a very addictive sport. And there are a lot of women in here that like, literally, I don't know what else I can do besides run, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you do give people some really helpful ways to think through that. And you also like point out in there that it might be a D at the beginning, but it might end up being a B minus. Like there's that evolution over time. You just, give yourself. And I think if we all thought back to our early days of running, now for some people, I know that's going to be when they were a kid and things were different. It was easier to pick different things up, but like it took time to get to that point with running too. And we forget that when we've been doing it for a while, but
Yeah, that socialization. I mean, that's huge, you know? Yeah, it's really big. And again, coming in with a beginner, like how many things have you started at this point in your life, right? Like in the last couple of years, brand new, like not just trying a spinning class, but like, you know, actually trying something for the very first time. I mean, that's why I don't knit. I tried to knit and it was really hard, you know? So like, again, that's, you know, just having that perspective because we're so used to being masterful at the things that we enjoy doing.
That is true, but I think that you also kind of point out, and I believe this to be true as well, that there are things that, you know, running gave you like the confidence to try things too. And like there are things that like just endure, like they aren't like things you have to replace because now they've become a part of you, even if you aren't running anymore, right? Yeah.
Oh, 1,000. I mean, especially people who started running as adults, right? Mm-hmm. Like where they found running and they found this sense of confidence and power, and like they weren't really necessarily athletes as kids. And that's, I think, a really hard transition because you're like, oh, I found this thing and it's given me so much. And now I have to give it up because my body won't let me do it anymore. Yeah. And so just taking that idea though, of like, I have the power, I have the confidence, I have the discipline, I like the structure, I like all that. Just where do I put it? And I mean, one woman was like, oh, I really want to go try rowing. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, absolutely. Like you are a strong athlete. As a former rower, like I'm like, any coach would be happy to have you. I know that. And, you know, and she was like, yeah. And I think back, like I was in, you know, my first run was, you know, from a running store and we were out maybe for 2 miles and I totally struggled. And, you know, it's like you were saying, Cindy, like you forget your beginnings. And so like you can take all the stuff that you built on the road and take it somewhere else. You may feel a little, you know, awkward and kind of clunky at first, but soon enough, you're going to get some rhythm there and you're going to get some traction and it's going to feel good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think people who read your book will be kind of inspired by the very many different kinds of things that people have found and gotten into, like dragon boats and
dragon boating. How cool is that?
Cool.
I know.
Cool. Yeah.
I know. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She was great. I mean, she was a runner out of, they moved to Philadelphia, she and her husband. And she was tripping a lot, like, and not in a, like I have chronic disease way, but she was breaking things and she's like, I'm done. I don't need to keep doing this to myself. And Love found the river and just was like the Schuylkill River and goes to like dragon boating camps now. And, and talk about community. It's like 20 people moving that boat together. And it's hard. Right. And she said, it's like, she's like, you don't get in shape to dragon boat. You dragon boat because you are in shape. And like, so there's like winter training and all that, so I think you have to be very like cast your net wider than you think. And I think it came to her as a Facebook ad, right? So again, cast it wider than you think it should. It doesn't just have to be hiking or biking or swimming or something like that. It could be, there's pickleball, there's taekwondo, there's people who are baking sourdough bread on like a marathon like schedule. Like literally every week she's baking like 18 loaves a month. She has this whole thing about how she sets it up. And, so there's a whole different way of taking what you learned on the road and putting it into your next chapter.
Love it. So Dimity, as you look back over your journey and your experiences, and as you kind of did that in writing this book, I'm curious, is there anything you would have done differently, either in the ending of your running career or the early days of your transition, knowing then what you know now?
Wow, that's such a good question. I think the biggest thing, like the best exercise for me in writing this book, in addition to talking to the women, I loved hearing the stories. I loved letting them kind of process it. That was very fun. But there was one sports psychologist that I talked to who talked about drawing a matrix instead of a pro and con list. And so instead of just saying pro, keep running and con, stop running, there's a pro and a con at the top. And then on the side is, keep running, stop running. So you have 4 different squares to fill. And I, except with the exception of writing that women's running article and writing a little bit about it and talking a little bit around AMR, I never put my pen to paper and like wrote out the reasons. Instead, I just let my head spin and spin and spin. And, I don't want to look like a poser at AMR. Oh my gosh, my knee hurts so much. Everything is so expensive. All this PT is so expensive. I'm so angry. Like all these different things that I didn't put any weight on anything. I just had these thoughts, just this endless river of thoughts, consuming a lot of my time. And literally just doing that exercise of like seeing it on paper, seeing like, okay, feeling like a little bit like a fake leader at AMR versus I am so exhausted from this like chronic injury cycle, like I'm going to jump off because of the chronic injury cycle. Like I can make, people at AMR, people are kind all over. Like they're not going to judge me for taking care of myself, but I couldn't weigh those things very consciously until I took a pen to paper. So I think journaling is really helpful.
Yeah. I'm a very big proponent of pen to paper. There's something about like you write because it swirls around in your head, but once you put it on paper, it makes it sort of real and tangible. And like, it's like, now it almost feels like now I have something to work with.
Yes,
instead
1,000%.
of being stuck in the central nervous system, right? Of like, like, what do I do with all of this? I don't know. I'm going to go do something else entirely and stop thinking about it because I'm making myself crazy. Like, it's a powerful experience.
But I think, that's one thing, but I don't know that that would have changed anything. I think it might have just helped me a little bit with processing it all. Yeah. But, I feel like every mile that I ran brought me to where I am right now. And I'm really feeling like I'm in a privileged spot to be able to help people with this. I really am. I feel like, I feel like my next chapter is going to be this like net to help people catch them when they can't run anymore. And because I want everyone to keep moving. That's the thing. It's not all or nothing. And, we all know the importance of just staying active and staying mobile and staying strong for just healthy lives and also to go on adventures that fire us up. So, I'm very grateful to be where I am right now.
Well, that is, I think, will be really inspiring for people to hear too, that, yeah, like you wouldn't change a lot. You are grateful both for the time that you had in running and the time that you've had since.
Yeah, for sure. So
and
the tears in between, right?
We can be grateful for those.
We can. Yeah. Well, you mentioned AMR, another mother runner, and we know you are kind of going through another professional transition with that too. I know this past December, you and Sarah Bowen-Shea, who'd been your partner on that for 15 years, I think, announced that you were kind of winding that down. And I'm curious what it was like to make that decision and whether that was easier or harder than the choice to stop running and how closely linked all of that was.
I mean, it was a lot at the same time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot at the same time. But both Sarah and I, like we said, we've had a lovely run together. We were together for 15 years, another mother runner. We were super proud of the community we created. We kind of created an inclusive community and an exclusive sport, and we're really proud of that. And it was very, very hard decision to do it, but you can't do everything all the time, right? And that's like, it's hard for me to like continue to write marathon training programs while I'm also trying to focus on being this net, I realized that I have limits, which I didn't always admit to that, but I am now in my life,
Something we learn.
Yeah, something we learn. And so, so the good news is, though, without further ado, is another mother runner has been acquired by Feisty Media, who you guys, listeners, may know. They have a couple of popular podcasts. They have a women's podcast about menopause called Hit Play, Not Pause. They have a whole bunch of programs, strength training programs and cycling programs, and now they're going to have running programs. And it's a very nice fit as far as mission, right? Which is keep women feeling strong and powerful and being able to enjoy whatever they want to do for as long as possible. And so really grateful to have Feisty come in and kind of take us in under their umbrella. I'm going to continue doing the hiking programs that I created at Another Mother Runner. And then I have moved Many Happy Miles, which was our membership program, over to its own website. And that's really helping women stay strong. It is strength training 2 or 3 times a week with mobility, with balance, with those stupid plyometrics that we all love to hate, all that stuff in there, so that it's just really drawn out for you super clearly, so that, again, you can kind of treat your body the best it can be.
Mm-hmm. And you have opportunities for like trips. And I mean, it really seems like a cool and like broad kind of net that you're offering people there too, right?
Yeah. We're doing some group hikes in a group. I'm going to do my first cycling trip on the Katy Trail in Missouri with hopefully about 20 women in September. Yeah, just trying. Because the other thing that I've really realized is I don't want to do things by myself anymore. Like, I like to do things with like-minded women. Most of my workouts are by myself just like because of, schedules and this, where I am. But, being able to be in community and go do something fun, that's my idea of nirvana, like really it is. So the more I can facilitate that, I enjoy it, and I hope other people enjoy it too.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, how, Dimity, did like writing this book change you, do you think, as an athlete and a person?
I think it softened me a little bit. Hearing everybody's stories again, like I really am so grateful to the women who helped me with this book, because my story, it's fine. It's like a slow burn, right? But if it was just mine, it wouldn't have the texture and the depth. This book would not. And so I think it's just made me much more cognizant, I guess, of what other people are going through. I consider myself a pretty empathetic person, but just, you just don't know. And it's so easy, especially when you're in a position of you're hurting yourself, to project like, oh, you have it so easy. Look at you out on your Saturday morning run. Like, yeah, you've never been hurt, or, nothing else is wrong in your life, right? And, you realize that, that's probably a little black and white, and, just just realizing that how important running has been and honoring that, I guess. I mean, it's made me softer, and it's also made me just kind of want to do more things, like realize that there's just a big wide world out there, and I want to try dragon boating. I want to spend more time on a paddleboard. I want to do all the things. So a little bit of both softening and ambition, I would say.
Maybe you could start a paddleboard knitting class.
And then when we're done, Carrie, we're going to do some yoga on the paddleboard.
That's
we're going
right.
to put all of our yarn in a plastic bag so it doesn't get wet. Yeah. But like, look at it, because we have this beautiful athletic foundation. You can do a lot, you know? And I love that idea. Yeah.
I actually did try paddleboard yoga one time, and I fell into the water multiple times. So it was fun. It was fun. Nice. Oh my gosh. Well, Dimity, I know that so many people are going to want to pick up this book, especially if they're most especially if they're in this transitional phase. But I hope that people who are just like thinking ahead a little bit will too. And you've given so many wonderful pieces of advice today. But is there anything else you'd share, speaking to those kind of people in that place right now that we didn't already talk about that you might want to leave our listeners with today?
I just think it's really important to allow yourself to be sad. Like, to allow all the feelings. You're not a bad person. You're not shameful if, California is on fire and we're at war with Iran and all you can think about is I can't run anymore. Yeah. That's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so lean into that grief, and lean into your anger and lean into your sadness and lean into whatever else you want to think about as you move forward, right? Like you're not going to just stop and think. We're going to keep your body moving. But just allow yourself to feel the feelings, because it's so easy. I think the repercussions of not doing it are going to come back and bite you. Carrie, you probably know that better than I do, but
Yeah. Amazing. Well, thank you so much, for writing this book and for sharing your journey and allowing so many other women to do so too. And thank you for coming on to share all this with us today.
It's been really fun. Like I love that you guys are still going and helping people out there that are in that wake, because a lot of us still need it.
Thanks again to Dimity for joining us, and to our sponsor, Lever Movement, for making the show possible. Remember, you can use code INJURED20 for 20% off any device at levermovement.com. Also, a huge shout out and lots of gratitude to Jeremy Nessel for editing this episode and every single episode of the Injured Athletes Club podcast, including Dimity's last one, every episode 1 through 170, whatever we're on now. We're also incredibly grateful to you, our listeners and club members. As you may know, the Injured Athletes Club is also a Facebook support group where you can find support and advice from other people who just get it. It's really one of my favorite places on social media, which is, not always my favorite place to be these days.
That's right.
It's incredibly supportive and wholesome. And, Dimity talks in this episode about how she doesn't like to do things alone anymore. And injury is one thing that you don't have to do alone. So come join us over there. You can get a link to the support group and to lots of other resources, how to buy our book, all of that on our website, injuredathletesclub.com. We'll see you there.